So hopefully now this helps us. Oh, a few people have requested. Great. Now that's what I like. All right.
Yes, please.
Okay. Finding you name out.
You knew me.
Hi, how are
Yes.
you?
I'm doing okay, dog.
All right.
A quick question. I suspect I have ADHD. I've not been diagnosed though, and I'm in Ghana. My first question is, where can I go for diagnosis? And then I have two kids, a boy and a girl. The boy is 8, and then the girl is 5, going on 6. Looking at the two of them, the boy seemed to be a little inattentive, and the girl seemed to be hyperactive, like ultra hyperactive. That I get exhausted. So this is the problem. I'm struggling, even though I'm a teacher. With the type of education system I teach in a secondary school. So with the type of education system we have, I prepare my staff. I go to a class. My brain is set to teach them for a period of time. After that, I'm struggling to come home and then have that patience and that extra time to be able to teach them. So I'm struggling. I'm struggling to help them. They're also struggling to pick up when you are talking. Five minutes is even a lot, and their attention is already gone. We are struggling. That's what I just have to say. We
All
are
right.
struggling.
Mhm.
I'm teaching. My brain probably has gone somewhere. By the time I realize I've deviated, and I'm teaching way above what I'm supposed to even do. I'm struggling. That's just
All right.
the long and
So
short of it.
your first question about where to get tested. Now, to be honest, because I'm not based in Ghana, right? I don't have nearly as much resources. But when I last asked, I was told Rich Hospital and 37 have good testing programs. So those would be the two things that I'd recommend that when you are able to check them out. But before that, I recommend that you watch, because I have a playlist on ADHD and even on my main YouTube page, I do have a couple videos that go into detail different ways.
I've gone down your rabbit hole.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, if you've already done that and you do relate to those symptoms, then I think it would be worth it to go do the testing. You go pay for it, do the testing, and then discuss treatment. From that point on. So yes, 37 and age are the places that I was told. I'm sure that if they are unable to see you, they'll probably have some referrals as to where you first.
Nothing up north, because unfortunately I'm up north.
Yeah. Yes, yes. Unfortunately, I've not received any connections anywhere else. I'm still working on it. I'm still working with folks in Ghana to try to get some connections. Yeah, so somebody says Mission Hospital. I don't know which state or which city that is. So please, if anybody is in the comment section who knows some connections in other parts of Ghana, please throw them in there so that at the very least, if there's something in Kumasi, it's probably closer to you. um, and also, when you reach out to them, you can always check with them if they offer virtual connections or virtual services, and see how possible that is. You know. Um, Also, you can, if you do have a primary care physician, if you do have your own doctor, not an OBGYN, a general doctor for you, you can talk to them
Okay.
and see what they think. Because I think for many adults, ultimately, when you get diagnosed, you want to explore medication. So talk to your doctor and see if your doctor can even begin to help you out.
Okay.
If you're
Okay.
lucky, your doctor may not need to do comprehensive testing. They can just
Okay.
assess you themselves and ask the right questions to help you out. Now, the kits, right?
Yes.
If I tell you I have this, strategy that would make them listen more and not forget things in 5 minutes, right?
Probably
Right.
something to help me be able to regulate, because
Exactly.
personally I'm equally struggling.
Mhm.
I'm struggling.
Yes. So I think that's where really the work is. I think it always comes down to your own patience and emotional regulation, right? So for me, one thing that helps many days is a recognition that It's not as if they are deliberately doing it. Sometimes it may feel that way, but when I recognize that for their age and potential, my son has ADHD, right? So for his age and ADHD and the autism and how they all put together, what he's doing would be, and many times I feel that
Yeah.
right? Many times I feel that way, but I also recognize it's not as if he's doing it maliciously, and that helps
Yeah.
me regulate my emotions a little bit better. Um, for your 8-year-old, like I was speaking about earlier, they can understand, they can read, then there are certain things that you can just have it on a board and you don't have to say the same thing over and over again. Um, there are certain things that they may do that if it's not necessarily bad, then you can just ignore, right? If what they're
Okay.
doing isn't bad, because there's sometimes when it's just annoying, but it's not necessarily a bad thing, it's not disrespectful,
Yeah.
there's no danger to it. Then if you keep yelling at them, then it's one more thing that you're yelling and frustrated with, right?
Okay.
Some of those things, let them get away with it, and it helps reduce the tension in the atmosphere, and hopefully that helps them also better regulate your emotions and deal with them. Because really, uh, I always go to that example. Imagine, say, if they were your closest friends' kids, and you weren't as invested, could you tolerate them more?
Okay.
Understand?
Yeah.
Now,
Um, but what of like when you're trying to help such kids study? Like for example, when I'm teaching the boy, you are explaining something, and in the next 30 seconds,
imagine that baby go there.
until they are woken,
Mhm.
like ube kasa, like you are explaining the thing 30 seconds mu no asɛ wo ne mframa na ɛkasa until deɛ woka no n'adwen ebi a ɔno no most especially wokasa wobɛhwɛ no ɔyɛ
Yeah, yeah.
until deɛ woka no. So like I tried sometimes maybe to use a joke or tickle him to get n'attention back, but wohu sɛ wo tickle na afei deɛ wɔde adane agorɔ
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
nti menim sɛ meekɔ o sɛ meebɔ o.
So a few things that are helpful is time, right? Don't try to do 30 minutes of work at a time, because both of us will be frustrated, right? So I know that if you need 30 minutes to do the thing, you have to kind of plan for it to last about an hour, but with breaks. So
Okay.
your question one, so 5 minutes, because I think for an 8-year-old, maybe he can stay with you for 5 minutes, get
Yeah.
work, 5 minutes worth of work out of him, let him go and run small. And I know sad parents, we're so busy that you don't have time for that, right? But ultimately, maybe you know what you run out anyway, but you're now very, very upset, right?
Okay.
But if you go into it planning for maybe 5 to 10 minutes, go play around for another 5 minutes, come back 5 to 10 minutes, it's helpful. And also, sometimes kids like that do not necessarily do well sitting and listening to you the whole time and have everything being in a steady vibe. Sometimes allow them to stand and be bouncing around. But even me, and as an adult, many times I'm holding something. These papers that I have here, I don't really need them, but I feel like I need to be doing something to concentrate and study.
Okay.
But kids, they don't know that and they cannot tell you that, right? So then it's like they get easily bullied. So when you're working with them, especially the 8-year-old, allow him some flexibility to jump around. If he wants to sit on, be on the seat like this, allow him.
Ay, Awurade.
If he wants to be spinning around like this, allow him. As long as it would help him focus better.
Okay.
So yes,
Okay.
don't feel like he has to study a particular way. So
Yeah, I do understand the struggle myself too.
yeah.
It also goes with is it the same issue that has to do with not being able to write something off, let's say a board? Like you write something and you expect him to write it. He struggled like or struggle. Growing up, I equally had that type of problem where me share board no so I write 3 lines by the fourth line me frafra.
Hmm.
Wobɛhu sɛ ebia you go to the next line na wasan aba back to the top na wobɛhwɛ no na ayɛ basaa bi saa no. Is it the same thing or they are totally different?
So
stuff?
it's not the same thing, but they're not necessarily totally different, right? What I mean by that
Okay.
is sometimes when a person's attention is not great, it affects their reading, their writing, and how you can track things. So
Okay.
attention and ADHD can affect that. But other times too, it's its own thing. Hi, Aisha. It's its own thing, such as dyslexia. Dyslexia is those kind of a reading disorder, reading difficulty on its own. But
Okay.
whenever somebody struggles with attention and we haven't necessarily gotten a hang of the ADHD, I don't like to worry too much about something like that because
Other stuff.
then it's like,
Okay.
is it attention more or is it, kind of a reading disorder by itself? So either way, when you help him focus better, when you help him figure out how his brain works and how he learns and stuff like that, it usually is helpful. Yeah, so let's start there. Let's start there. Help him pay attention better. Help
Thank
him give
thank you
yourself
very
time
much.
when you're studying. Yeah, yes.
But God bless you. You've been really helpful. So
Um,
thank you. Thank you very much.
my
My BP is coming down small small with time. So
that's my
thank
aim. That's my goal. My
thank
own
you.
goal is to help parents
Yeah.
calm down. You're welcome.
And it's like I'm beginning to understand some of the things na me ankasa na me no, like I'm beginning to, and yes, be a me be sa, but
You're okay.
so thank you. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Ohene, hello. Is the name Ohene? Ohene Luti Love 24. Are you there? Oh. Okay.
Hello, everyone.
So, hi. How are you?
Okay, I have unmute myself. Doctor,
Yes, I
how
can
are
hear
you?
you. I'm doing well. Thank you very much.
My greetings to everyone. I'm Mecca Tree. Hi.
I'll translate.
Um,
You speak Chi.
okay. My question is, hey, sorry, Mr. Mecca Tree, so American bro.
Feel free.
My question is there. How long and a is it hyper maybe boy over 10 years
Yeah.
from the childhood na me who said any sonjo like
Mhm,
obe house even ni oya baby
mhm.
obe house na just ti anaju ye beto nyom ye be sa ye be say before ansa na no ada wada ntem kra 11 p.m.
Oh,
ansa na me nso mada odisa no de ani now no over 10 years 10 years no.
mhm,
The only thing I keep me busy is the iPad and the laptop. Asa,
mhm.
oye wo fie, oye wo school mu, oye wo be like baby obedu bia even hospital cry ya admit na any the nurses no be busy sa.
Mhm.
My try my best. It's like if you ha ono me nkwa na me na downfall. Ne papa nte na se, ne nuanom nte na se, obi a nte na se. And now no ogusu ni wanya 10 years. Mibisa say how long na ebe take ansa na obi hu say nipa na ni so adwo kakra. Cause school mu kroye.
Mhm.
But one thing about him is say obaya say gidigidi ni nyina yes school mu yes on tena se nsua de kra. But the results be ba na okay.
Awesome.
Like are you good?
Yeah.
And he's very crafty. Bibia de no like bibia opeso ebi opeso swim opeso bobo opeso yes. The only thing that keep me busy ne phone ne laptop ne iPad and no pen e be keep me busy
Mhm.
and no pen na osomu de ne de onye hwe bio.
Yeah. Mhm. Okay.
Me fear ni say oye addicted to saa nneɛma no nso ebia na wantimi pay attention to other thing but ɔkɔ saa nneɛma no nso a na yɛn nso yɛnya yɛn peace of mind wɔ fie ha
Mhm.
ɔnkɔ ho yɛ de obi ani ne peace of mind
Yeah. Now before
he's
before
jumping
before
from one place to the another ɔsɛe adeɛ ɔyɛ a na aka kyerɛ sɛ ɔno ɔkɔɔ second world war no na ɔyɛ soldier ni. And you can't stop him when he start doing that unless when you're on the phone, when you're watching on the laptop. pɛkyi. So mepɛ sɛ menya
Yeah, yeah.
nteaseɛ bi wɔ deɛ ɛkɔ so no ho.
Before I say anything, where are you based? Are you in Ghana? Are you in the diaspora?
Yɛwɔ Ghana.
Oh, Ghana. Okay. All right. It gets a little bit more tricky. Actually, being in Ghana has its advantages. So at some point, because I don't see a lot of, 17, 18-year-olds bouncing around and jumping on, on tables and being hyper.
Our 10 years, 10 years.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, all things being equal, by 15 or so, from Kaka, when puberty hits and all of that, the hyperactivity will reduce a little bit. But one of the things that help, if your environment allows you, is to actually give him the space to burn off the energy. So if you have a backyard, or if he is into some sport or something where he's actually active as part of the process. When I was younger, I played football. Not me football. I played soccer. So every weekend or so, I had joined this team. We would go to training sometimes. Every weekend we had a game. So when you've gone to soccer training and you're already tired, when you come home, all you want to do is chill, relax more.
Mm.
So find ways for him to constructively exert that energy. And if he it won't be all of it. He will not burn all of it. He'll still have some more energy left by the time he comes home. But it won't be nearly as much, and it will actually help him sleep earlier, and hopefully altogether improve his general mood. So I think there's a first one. If there's a way to help him.
Okay. The problem is that my mom trained us to be indoor something. No, I'm not the type that I do go out and all that. So all my kids, I train them to be the same. But this particular one,
Yeah. So, yep. So this is the one that will make you change your trainings more, both for him and for your other kids. To be a little bit more open to trying some other things. And I hope you can still hear me. But one thing that will cut across in all of the things that we will say, if those of you who did not hear, Ohene, she says she was raised to be more of an indoorsy person. And there are many things that you were raised to do, but your child will give you every reason that has to change. And if it's not necessarily something bad, then you would have to adapt as a parent. Because it's almost unfair as a parent to say you are such an indoorsy person and you're not willing to change that, but the 10-year-old should stop wanting to, either be outdoorsy or do something that his body feels like doing. So yes, if your child is hyperactive, I think the first bit is to try to give him an avenue to exert some of that energy, to just make sure that when he's indoors, actually there's a little less energy to go around. All right, so I think we would take Jonathan, and then we'll go to Miss Coco, and then we'll go to Wendy. Hi, Jonathan. Are you there? Oh, and Anima, please feel free to jump in anytime if there's a question you've seen that you want us to get to.
Yeah, there's a comment from Mavis Chinebo. She was asking if ADHD kids excel in school.
Oh yeah. For those of you who don't know, I have ADHD, and I think I'm doing all right. So as long as they get the support, they get the treatment, they're gonna be okay. Also, kids with ADHD does not have a direct impact on intelligence. So somebody can really be really, really intelligent. So even though they may not be able to focus, they are good enough to pass classes. So even when a child has ADHD and they don't get any treatment, sometimes they can do well, but it's always a case of they may not reach their full potential given their gift of intelligence, right? But yes, kids with ADHD can do well academically, excel, and you may not even know, it will not even cross your mind that they have ADHD. Usually you begin to see issues maybe when they're in late high school or, secondary school or college, because that's when schoolwork is actually now hard because they have to actually sit and study. But yes, I guess the short answer to the question is kids with ADHD can excel academically. Yes. Jonathan, let's hear you.
Yeah, hello, Dr. Lewis.
How you doing, bro?
Yeah, I hope you're fine. Yeah, wonderful being here again. So I just want to contribute to the discussion. As you know already that I had my diagnosis come in, and then my two sons also recently got their
Hello, Obi.
diagnosis. Can you hear me, please?
I can now. Yes, I just had to.
Okay. So my two sons also had their diagnosis, and then one of them is actually the combined type, and then there's the other one is the inattentive type, and I also have the combined type as well. So it's been a journey. It's been a journey because we have to, um, you're having an ADHD and supporting kids with ADHD. Even though I'm an adult and you have the knowledge, read around, get the research, try to support. I mean, naturally, sometimes you get the triggers, you know, you get the triggers, and then that's where I think the challenge for me is that sometimes I know because I do a lot of research, and yet even before the diagnosis, I there was a lot of research that I did, and then when I saw similar symptoms, determined that they may have, and I went to also have mine to do. But the thing is that even though you have the knowledge, even though you have the knowledge and you know what the literature says you should do, sometimes because you yourself have it and you are prone to certain triggers, you're unable to put yourself in a position where you how do you say, you don't respond to those triggers.
Right.
You understand? So yeah, the challenges that I personally face is that sometimes I find myself, lashing out at the kids when I know they are doing things that, are not probably socially okay, and I want to whip them in line. One part of me knows that these kids have a challenge and they must be held in a particular way. But then again, that the ADHD in me also cannot take certain things, and then that becomes where the challenge is. So after lashing out, you come back to your senses and realize that no, you should have done it differently. So the question is, um, how do you position yourself as a father with ADHD to support kids with ADHD without being triggered, because they will trigger you.
Exactly.
They will trigger you.
That sort of
Yeah.
answers a part of your question. You said, would that being triggered? It probably won't happen, right? So the fact that they will continue to do certain things that makes you go, right? Because a part of ADHD, especially for those of you who have either hyperactive impulsive type or combined type, is difficulties regulating your own impulses and emotions, right? It makes it an extra step harder to regulate your emotions and your impulses. So when you have ADHD yourself, then almost everything else that they're doing is an additional layer more intense for you. So that
Okay.
means that as a parent, you have an additional responsibility to take care of yourself so that your baseline mood is calmer than maybe the average parent, right? Because I find that when I'm not necessarily exhausted from work, I had a good night's sleep, I'm not hungry, I've had my food in the day, I'm better able to see them as kids, or kids with ADHD, or in the case of my son, a kid with autism and ADHD. I'm better able to acknowledge that I still don't let them necessarily get away with the nonsense, right? But I'm able to correct them in a more constructive way, right? In a way that I'm in control and I'm actually teaching more than necessarily punishing or even hurting them. So that's always my go-to. When you continue to take care of yourself, find time to rest, and I know that we are busy people, like work is tough, we have to go out there and make the money to come take care of them. But when you are always exhausted from all the things that you have to do, then you can't be the parent you want to be to them, right? So for me, it comes down to taking care of yourself and the commitment for continued improvement. So if today you make a mistake, by lashing out or yelling at them, challenging yourself that I want to do better tomorrow. And what that means is that, okay, tomorrow I want to make sure that I'm taking care of myself, I'm handling myself, I'm putting things in place to reduce the possibility of this happening. I'll give you an example. Like our son, you can't get a guy to sit. So we live in the US and he's on medication, right? So when he's not on medication, if you hold his head like this, you're not going to get him this way for 10 seconds. And I'm not joking, right? If you hold his head like this, he's doing this. So that's how much he moves and jumps around the house. There are times when the place he's trying to jump to could hurt him, right? So luckily, his high chair that we had for him as a child is quite big. So, but he's not a bad kid. He's not stubborn or anything. So when we put him in his high chair, he actually stays in it for a few minutes, sometimes even up to an hour if needed. So if we need him to eat or if he's been running around too much, everybody's tired and exhausted and we need to calm him down a little bit, we stick him in there and maybe give him an iPad and keep an eye on him. And that kind of forces him to be steady in one place for a bit. So that's a step that we have taken to get some semblance of, like a reduction in chaos. So the thing that kids with ADHD will do to you is, will do to you, do for you, whatever it is, you're going to have to stay creative, but the commitment is to make things easier for them and for yourself, as opposed to how many of us were raised, which is to instill the fear of God in them. If you want to go by the fear of God route, actually, yeah, you scare almost too much fear in them and kill any creativity that they may have. So
Yeah.
ultimately, take care of yourself, get creative with how you can keep them busy as well as how you can keep them well behaved. Many things you're gonna have to let slide if it's not dangerous, if it's not necessarily disrespectful or problematic, but it's probably just a little annoying. You're gonna have to let that slide. And I'm still learning, by the way. So it's small. You get better at it.
Okay, so how do you navigate social settings? Because this is what I find. You know how social settings are. Maybe you go to a dinner with friends and all that, and your children are not going to sit, and probably are going to be chatty and making noise and all that, which is not appropriate for that particular social setting. Even though you keep teaching them, but you know that the absorption rate is never going to be the same. Now, the question is, how do you navigate a social setting such that the people within your social setting know that these are the challenges that your kids are facing, and for them to be accept them the way they are, and not feel ashamed that maybe you have kids that people may think you are not training them well. It's also a difficult area.
Well, so it's a tricky one, but I think ultimately the goal is to get to a point where the people around you know your kids and accept them as is, right? Like, again, it gets tricky. It's not always that simple, but our friends understand our kids. They know Lion would not sit. They know when they come to our house, LJ won't give them a hug, won't give them a high five. LJ will ignore them the whole time. And they know them. And when they come to our house, we don't necessarily force our daughter to go say hi or to do like. Sometimes we encourage, yeah, go say hi. We know that she doesn't mind a high five, right? So go say hi, give a high five. She'll give a high five. So when we're in social settings, we are usually in social settings with people who understand them, and we don't feel like we have to, like change them too much in social settings, right?
So do you necessarily inform your social groups where your kids will socialize? Do you necessarily inform them about their condition?
Well, many of them just know because they are friends.
Okay.
Right? It may not be on the day of the social gathering, but they know like when they come to our house on a different day, or we're talking on the phone, or on the day that we got the diagnosis. So many of our close friends already know about our kids and their history the same way we know there. You know, like our closest friends, they live about an hour and a half away from us. We are their children's godparents, and they are our children's godparents, right? So they are around us a lot. They already know. We don't necessarily have to tell them, right? So wherever we are, we all make plans for the kids to have the space to do what they need to do. So I think we have built a social circle where we don't even have to explain anything. So if that's possible, that would be my recommendation. Like continue to build a social circle where you don't have to even worry about being ashamed. Because they already know the kids, they know you're good parents. They know that your kids' situations. You don't have to explain too much. If you are around newer people, then it's again you expressing to them that, hey, my kids are going to be all around the place. This is what's going on with them. Sometimes you may not even have to put a name to the diagnosis. You just say they can be bouncy and all of that. They can do all of that. So depending on where you're going, you already ask ahead of time. Hey, can we make plans to have, depending on where you're based, a trampoline outside for the kids to play with? Is there a lot area where the kids can go and have some freedom and some space, right? Because if you expect them to hang out with us as adults, they're probably not going to do that, right? So when you kind of stay ahead of those conversations, then on the day off, it's not as annoying. You're not that parent who is negligent or whatever it is. But ultimately, there are still going to be some people in your life who might still give you eyes when you do that, and that is your cue to decide who to hang out with and who not to hang out with. Because if I come spend time with you every weekend, and every weekend you're giving me eyes and making me feel like I'm a horrible parent, like I'm not coming to you. I'm not spending time with you consistently if you're going to consistently make me feel like crap, because your child is different. So it's important to curate your space in a way that works for you and your family, and hang around with parents who just accept you and your kids without having to explain too much. And that's why here is my wife, and I'm guessing she has something to add to that part.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, like you're saying, like even though, well, first of all, we I'm sorry, my daughter is jingle belling here. Um, even though most of our friends, we first of all don't have very many friends. Like our circle of friends is sometimes sadly very very small. So like our close circle of friends, they all know that Lion has ADHD and autism, and LJ has autism. I think it's even to the point that sometimes they let them get away with things too much, things that we wouldn't even let them get away with. Our friends will let our kids get away with, because they're like, no, they're not just trying to be stubborn or anything. But like Chloe said, on the other hand, we do have some friends. Like we
You
have
said,
this.
you said it like you're putting it in quotes.
No, I mean, like they are our friends. I guess they just do not understand, or we don't hang out with them like as often as we do with the other people. But then, like, we've had some friends that we will go to, like, their house, and like when Lion is spinning around, like, there was this one particular, like, every time she would ask me, like, why does Lion keep doing this thing over and over again? Why does Lion? And at a point, I was like, actually, ask him. Can you just ask him? If he gives you an answer, that's fine. I like, why do you keep asking me the same questions over and over again? And then, like, we have they actually from the same family, kind of like this other friend who would every time like ask me, so Lion, he's still not wanting to talk. And I'm like, it's not like you think he doesn't want to talk, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, to the point that the day that I actually decided to, I was like, okay, so Lion has autism, Lion has. She's like, God forbid, don't say that. Don't even use those words. Don't let these people put labels on your child. So we just don't hang out as much anymore.
Mhm.
Or we've actually, I have actually come to a point that when we meet somewhere, because we ultimately are like family here. So when we meet somewhere, we are bound to meet somewhere again. Like, so when we meet somewhere and she's like just keep praying. I told you everything will be fine. I just say, okay, yeah, we'll keep praying, and then I keep it moving. But thankfully, also, because Lion is medicated, that's the other part that I wanted to get to. There are some places that we have to go to that is not just with our friends. And we realized that his hyperactivity is going to be a nuisance to the people that are there and what is going on. We just medicate him. Like he has an instant release medication that works like that. So when we have to go somewhere like that and it's at 2, at 1 p.m., we give him his medication. So by the time we go, it's kicked in. And then we have a good 4 or 5 hours where he's going to be on his best behavior. Like, I mean, the autism that you cannot medicate, so that is still there. He's still not going to talk to other people. He's still not going to socialize, but at least he's not hyperactive. And then after the 4 hours, we are done, and then we come to our house. And then when we really can't, we don't go. Just
Yeah, I
waste.
mean, I
Yeah.
think that the information that you've given is so refreshing. But the only point that is quite difficult for my case currently is that between my wife and I, we are split on medication because I feel that if my ADHD was treated as a kid, I would have been way better than I am now. So now that we've been able to identify my kid's ADHD, I feel that I am of the opinion that we need to go straight to medication, but she feels that we need to start therapy. But I've a few research I've done. People keep saying that the therapy don't really work as much as the medication. So, at what point did you decide to medicate your children? And do you think that is the way to go?
Well, our son is 6, so there's that. I guess that's your answer. How old are your kids?
My children, one is 9 this 26 December, and the first one is 10. He turned 10 last year, September.
Okay.
Sorry, this year September actually. Yeah.
All right. Well, so this is what I'll say. When it comes to the research says the best ways to manage ADHD is with a combination of medication and the skill building, right? Our son, for example, I mean, he's nonverbal, so there isn't a whole lot there. But to teach a child certain skills, they have to be present, hear you, take the information in, and repeat for the skill to kind of stick, for them to actually employ it. So if you do live in a jurisdiction where you have access to a medication, I think it's a good idea to combine that with the therapy or the skill building that you want to do. If not, the skill building or the therapy would take significantly longer than it has to. Right. That means that you as parents are also frustrating yourselves and stuff like that. So yes, like Dr. Tina is saying, a combination of medication and therapy is ideal. Sometimes people like medication, ADHD medication gets a bad rap, right? People are worried that they'll get addicted to it or something like that. It's not like that. Find a provider who you trust and you feel that they're good at their job, and they will give your child. They'll start slow and work your child up to a dosage that works for them. If they try a stimulant medication, those you can take as needed. That means that if the child is going to school, they take it. If it's on a weekend day and you think as a family you can just deal with him, he doesn't have to take it. If they have like a Christmas break, for example, when our friends came in, when we had a lot of people in our house, we had our son take his medication. But I don't think he took it today, for example, because we're home, both of us are home. We have the weather's actually better, so we can send him outside in the backyard to play. On a day like this, we don't need him on this medication. So while it's important to help him build the skills, the combination of the medication and the therapy or the skill building is ideal. That's honestly what I'd recommend. But obviously, whatever medication the child goes on, that's a combination with the child's pediatrician, and also based on the child's unique, strengths and difficulties. And they also do like heart tests and stuff like that to make sure his heart is healthy to handle the medication. But hopefully, your wife will hear me when I say the research says that the combination of medication and therapy is the best way to go.
And yeah, and Jonathan, like Louis says, like still finding up the provider that you trust. I think it would be helpful if both you and your wife, because even though this is what Louis does, I mean, first of all, he doesn't prescribe medication to start with, but like even with us, before we put Lion on medication, I remember his pediatrician wanted both of us in his office before he would prescribe it, because he says like way too often one parent comes and takes the medication and then it's a whole thing in the family. So like they want both of you, like if both parents are involved in the child's life, they want both of them there and go through everything with them before, like for both of you to say, yes, we agree, let's start this medication before they do. So it would be a good idea if both you and your wife could see a pediatrician or the psychiatrist, whoever is going to prescribe the medication, so she lets them understand what her fears and concerns are. They'll be better able to address it for you, because like Louise was saying, you don't even have to give them the medication all the time, if that's one thing she's worried about. And like we don't give Lions medication every day. Like Louise was saying, he hasn't taken it today. Like especially his, because like, so I'm telling you that Lion has been in ABA. ABA is really for autism, but then like he has been in ABA for so long. And do you know how much ABA costs? Let's not even talk about that. Like, We would be very rich people if we didn't have these kids. But like it's so expensive and we were not seeing anything. And I remember like when he is in school too, and every time his teacher will send pictures, like Lion is never in any of the pictures. And I was worried that like our son was being sidelined or something. So I was like, what is going on? So I reached out to the teacher that, hey, actually, Lewis was saying that I probably signed something that said they shouldn't take pictures of him because it didn't make sense. There was not one picture the lion was in. So I reached out to the teacher and said, hey, like, did I sign something that said you shouldn't take pictures of lion or something? And she said, no, you didn't. But I cannot get lion, like, I can't get him in any picture because he is so swift. Like,
Yeah.
he's 1 minute he's here, the next minute he's gone.
Yeah.
So I can't get him. And I'm like, what is he studying then? No wonder we're not getting anything from ABA because he can't sit long enough. And since we started him on medication, his ABA therapists are telling, like every time we pick it, they're like, it's day and night. The difference is like amazing how he gets through his programs. Like it's amazing how much he's grasping now.
Yeah.
So like they need to learn the skills, but they need to be able to focus and actually learn the skills.
Learn the skills. Yeah.
So yeah, like if you could see the provider so she could voice her concerns to the provider who would address them, maybe she would be more open to at least trying it and see. So yeah, that's
Thank
all the
you.
best.
And Jonathan, one last thing to add. Me that I'm sitting here like this, I'm the adult that is a specialist in ADHD and I know all the skills, but I take my medication every day.
Yeah.
So to expect a 9-year-old to just have the skills only and make change like that is probably unrealistic. I mean, it depends on the person's level and difficulties and all of that. But to put it in context, I'm the one telling you all of this, but I've taken my medication this morning.
Okay.
Right? I hope that helps.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. Thank you so much. I'll
Yeah.
allow other people to go on, and if there's something else, I'll add later.
Yes, sir. All right. So, Black Pearl, before we go to Miss Coco, anything that I need to know in the comment section?
Finding Yenime was asking, she was asking if the talking to yourself in your head actually gets to cease. The
Yeah.
thoughts wandering off if it gets to cease.
Why would
And then she was also asking, a minute, please. Yeah,
Yeah, I was
basically that.
if
So, okay,
yeah.
just
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so I was saying that sometimes you're talking and it's like there's a dialogue in your head, as if you are talking to two people, three people, sometimes one person at the same time. Like this particular conversation that we are having, I've had it already in my head before,
Yeah.
like two or three times. And as we are talking, it's like you go, come back, and we are grasping. So does it stop? And then she said something about coping mechanism. So I was wondering what those are and how do.
So the thing with your brain as a person, as a person with ADHD, there are going to be several aspects of your brain that you just have to come to terms with it and be okay with it, right? Actually, for me, the part of my brain that almost never shuts up is one of my favorite things about my brain. Because even on some of my worst days, I can live an entirely different life in my head and you won't know that I've experienced such bad news. Right? Because in my own head and the dialogue that I'm having with myself, I'm keeping it positive. You know how people do, guided meditations and they, when you go to therapy, they teach you how to do mindfulness and you can take yourself to a place where you like to be. For me, it's like every day. So I can actually take my place every day to a place where I like to be. So that for me isn't a thing of my brain that I want to stop. The goal is to try to get it to be positive and also to try to bring yourself as much as possible to the present when you're actually interacting with somebody, right? So if you're interacting with somebody or if you are doing something where you have to be present in the moment, then it takes practice to always kind of bring yourself back to the moment, because one thing about the things you do in your own head is, I don't know how to explain it, break it down, but I'll try. It's an active process. It's something that you're actively doing. right? I know that sometimes it feels like you got lost in your thoughts, but you're actually doing something with the thoughts, right? So when you stop doing, so for example, in my case, my favorite team, Manchester United, right now, Man U sucks, but in my head, I can take Manchester United and we can go on and win games and games and games and win Champions League all in my head in the space of like 15 minutes, and I'm just there doing that, you know. But if I am talking to somebody and I want to be present, then after we play game one, I don't move on to game two. I bring myself back to the person that I'm speaking to, try to be more present, you know. If I'm driving and I feel like I'm in my head, I bring my attention back to the music that I'm listening to, for example, so I can be present. So those are some coping skills that can help you bring yourself back to the room by reducing the activity that you put into the thoughts process and where your mind goes. But there will be several aspects of your brain that I'm hoping you don't want to end, right? Because it's some of what just makes you you, you know. So if you can find a way to be playful with it and make it work for you, then it shouldn't be one of the things that you worry about managing or treating or fixing, you know. So as much as possible, because honest, I mean, I guess another way is even when I'm on my medication, my brain still does those things, right? So I guess it's a way of telling you I don't have a solution to how to stop it, you know, except to have fun with it, you know. But yeah. And so for finding, you know, so that we have some more openings for more folks, after everyone speaks, I would, you know, bring some people down to have some more openings. So Jonathan, I may bring you down and you know, we can come back up when the time comes. Hi, Miss Coco. There you go. Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. Please, I want to contribute um
Yeah.
to Miss findings Yemini or whatever. Please forgive me your name. The thing is, with I'm a teacher,
Mhm.
so I teach special needs only. So with teaching students with ADHD, the best thing is not to keep them sitting as they go. We have therapies in and out, but um one of the best ways to keep them busy whilst teaching them, and it's best if parents, if you're a parent and you also have ADHD, I would advise you leave the teaching for somebody else, because it tends to keep your mental health you put it at stake, if I'm making sense. So the best thing is to allow someone take that role and you build a nice relationship with them, because the ADHD comes with its own mental stress. Yes, mental stress. So I would advise that if you're a mother, a parent, if it comes to academics, I think you should leave it to the experts. Else you'll be stressed. The child will be stressed. Your relationship will be at stake, and already they are going through a lot. And as they grow, 10 years, they start noticing the stigma around them and all that. And they come home and they come home and it's like issue. Mommy that is supposed to give me comfort is now also trying to teach me, and the whole thing is too much on the children. So I would advise that. And some of the easy tricks I use is running. We can be running and learning. You should make learning very playful to keep them, else you will not get my babies, you will not get them. You'll be talking and he's dreaming. And so you can do certain activity. We sit and we throw balls. I think that's how we do counting. Sometimes we take the stone, we throw it. Just the sound of it excites them and they are learning how to count in the process. So I believe parents should concentrate on being like that, their support system. Because after 10 years, the stigma is real. I see it day out. We can shield them as much as we can, but sometimes we can't help. Society will be society. Yes, so please, mothers and fathers, that's all I wanted to say in the whole thing.
Thank you. No, those are great points. Now I know that the parents. I mean, Fanny Yineme was probably talking more along the lines of helping him with his homework, and sometimes you cannot outsource that, But what Miss Coco said about making it playful, even doing some running while doing that, throwing things, safely while doing that, huge, huge, huge things, very, very helpful. Yeah, as much as possible, make it fun because if it's not fun, I have a video on this and how kids with ADHD they need almost an additional level of excitement in quotes to do some of the basic things that other kids just do. The joy or the satisfaction that other kids from doing certain things, kids with ADHD don't necessarily get that. It has to be really playful, really exciting for them to even want to do it. So if you keep the academics just basic, they won't do it. If you expect him to just come from school and say, I have homework, I'm going to go open my book and do my homework, it probably won't happen, right? So try to be creative, make it playful, and that's how they're going to do it. Especially if you have a child who is smart enough to just get B's or get decent grades and not have any issue, like I was. I can almost count on one hand the number of times from class one to JSS3 that I came home and opened the book on my own, right? One, because I didn't need to, and two, because why would I do that? There's no motivation to do that, So you have to stay creative, and that's one of the things that would help you with your kid. And if you're an adult with ADHD yourself and there are things that you need to do, you have to find a way to almost gamify it, make it like a game. And that's what would motivate you enough to do it. If you're not playful with your brain, you don't make it gamey and fun. You would want to do it in your head, but the actual execution would always, falter. Thanks again, Miss Coco. Are you based in Ghana? Because I'm under the impression that special needs services in Ghana are sort of limited.
Yes, I'm based in Ghana.
Oh, nice. Is it common for schools to have a teacher that solely teaches special education students?
It's not too common
Yeah.
because special needs teachers are expensive. That's the truth. Because the work is difficult. So
So is it you work in a private school? Is that a private school system?
yes, yes,
Okay.
a private school, a private
Got it.
school.
Got it. Well, thank you. Thank you for your service. We're glad that you're doing that for us all in our society. Thank you very much. All right. So Wendy. Hi, Wendy.
Please, I have two questions.
Let's go.
One, I want to know the difference between ADHD and autism. And the second one is I have 5 years old son. Now he started chewing papers and I don't know what to do. He's doing the same thing at school. So I don't know if there is something that I can do to help him to stop.
During the papers.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's take the first one. ADHD and autism. And for those of you who follow me already, I'm sure you've seen me talk about this. I have a couple videos on it. But ADHD is primarily difficulties with attention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. And autism is difficulties with social, situations and social issues, as well as repetitive behaviors and rigidity, among other things. So there are people who have ADHD and autism. Those are not what we're talking about today. So if it's more like either ADHD or autism, you're going to see that the ADHD person is more impulsive or hyperactive or cannot focus. Whereas a person with autism, depending on the age, you're going to see more of difficulties in social situations. He doesn't play well necessarily with other kids, doesn't care to even be around other kids. And if he's around them, he can either be sort of brash or he just doesn't know how to relate well with other kids. They may be
Okay.
very rigid, small things that like they don't do well with changes. They like things done a certain way, and if you change it small, meltdown. So those are some of the things that you see in kids with autism versus ADHD. Make sense?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, and for the 5-year-old who is chewing papers, so it's actually that sort of behavior is more common in kids with autism. There are people who also do that that don't have any either ADHD or autism. But when a child sometimes it's a sensory thing for them. They want something to stimulate their mouth, and the texture and the way the paper feels for them in their mouth is something that actually is soothing. So sometimes they do that when they're upset. They'll rip paper, they'll chew on paper, or even when they're bored. Just something because it's soothing. Um, Sometimes you just have to find them something else, right, to use as the thing that suits that suits them. My Our son, for example, when he goes to school, they give him it's a cloth thing that he will use it to soothe his mouth when he uses it to put in his mouth and chew on up until he is done with school. And that's why it's saying, or it's pica. Pica is a whole slightly different conversation. Whether it's when they chew, the paper is inedible, but they chew inedible things, but it's slightly for a different thing. So if there's no concern about autism or anything like that, then it could be pica. And of course, I always say, whether it be ADHD, pica, autism, if you have any concerns about your child's development, a good place to start is with your child's pediatrician. And then they will gather the whole history and help direct you one way or the other. The other solution that is a bit more brash is to limit their access to the papers they want to chew. I know that's hard. Like an example that I remember one time somebody asked me that there's a child who comes to your school and he will pee and lay in his pee and chew sand and stuff like that. And my question was, well, where are you when he's peeing and laying in it and chewing sand? Right? Because some kids, obviously, if a child is peeing and sitting in it and chewing sand, you don't expect that he will just 5 hours later come to quote unquote his senses and do better. Right. So in that particular moment, your job as a teacher or as a parent is to keep him safe and reduce access, put things away, and also help him learn how to soothe through other ways. It's hard, yes, but those are some ways to manage it for now.
For him, what can no was it? And
Yeah.
any people be an any be a box, anything, any people be what can no was it?
Yeah. No. Obey. Yes. Yeah.
It's not easy.
Talk to his pediatrician to see. Let him do a more comprehensive assessment. Figure out what's going on.
Um,
You know.
I'm so last 2 weeks, Anna omoye anyway na because na omunyanje ya fe na omo ayenti no. Omuko school no moka say school mo so owe papers sa. And he's doing the same thing at home.
Yeah. So, do you have the results back, or you're waiting on it?
Yeah, we have the results.
Yeah. Okay. Has he been diagnosed with anything?
Autism.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, when you started speaking, it made sense. And hi, Teddy. Hello and bye. But yes, so it's one of the things that kids with autism do. It's a sensory thing. So typically, if you find him something else to chew on, and I know that as parents, especially people in our community, you want him to just stop as opposed to finding him something else to chew on, because when you're out there in the community and your child is chewing on, your 5-year-old is chewing on something, people look at you.
Sunday you quite sorry. People say that from no atam no or we have it will be a shame.
Yeah, no. So especially when we come to autism, right? You're going to also to anyway. You're going to have to forget everybody.
It's not easy.
I don't know. I don't know if you were listening. We have a 6-year-old who is nonverbal and has autism and ADHD. I promise you, I know what you're talking about. I promise you, I know what you're talking about, and I know it's not easy. But it's either that or every day you are upset at your child because ogu animasi. You understand? If your child goes out there to do certain things and because it's making you look bad, that upsets you. Now you are bringing a bit of your frustration onto the child. So I promise you, I know it's not easy. So the goal is to get to a point where, yes, you help your child, but your child has to come first. However anybody else feels about you and your child or your parenting skills, forget. Because I promise you, these people, if they had to deal with your child, they would probably lose their minds. You know, so
And another question, or starting school, normal school, but now on kasa anyway, no. And no actually who say, on your okay, any, yeah, didn't come out, yeah, or more, yeah, video, Macas or yotis. Say, no, I started can 1, 2, 3, 2 times, two times table, only nina.
nice.
But on Timinka, mommy, on Timinka, daddy.
Yeah. It's,
On him all the
how many kids
colors.
do you have, Wendy?
4.
You have 4 kids. Okay. So,
3 girls, 1 boy. And on one at the third born.
mhm. It's like you see the difference, right? Because other
Yeah.
kids maybe are not like that. It's one of the most difficult things about raising a child with special needs, whether it be autism or ADHD, is the difference from other kids and how you wish better for them. You know, because every day, I know we say a lot that don't compare your kids, but every day your brain compares. Your brain compares them to your other kids. You compare them to other people's kids. You know, it's like, well, I didn't have to deal with this with your sister. I didn't have to deal with this with your brother, right? So your brain will do those things, you know. But for me, the reason I'm saying the things that I'm saying is because it's not productive. You know, if you worry so much consistently about what other people are saying, it doesn't help you, doesn't help your kids, and the other people won't stop. Like, I never do anything with the hope that society will be more accepting. Because society will not. There are people who don't understand you. They will see you with your 5-year-old who is giggling when nothing is funny, or chewing on paper, but you're trying to get him to stop and he's just giggling. And either they'll say things or they'll give you certain eyes, you know. But it's then not fair for you to take that frustration or that shame onto the 5-year-old who doesn't know any better, you know. So that's why we surround ourselves with people you don't have to explain anything to.
Oh no, excuse me. Oh no, who say why you stress and I say you to me, baby, because I say, are you okay?
Yeah. Mhm.
Or to me, or who say what you doing? I know about baby, sir. Are you okay?
Yeah, yeah. No, and
And you catch and say, yeah, I'm okay. And you?
yes,
Na
Teddy, you
wa
can
usiniti.
Teddy, you can request to come up if you haven't already, and I'll take um good.
I don't know if she's still here.
Yeah, so we talked about medication here a little bit, right? So for kids diagnosed with ADHD, best course of treatment is a combination of medication and helping them build the skills. So the medication would help give them a start. So the goal is to help them learn a lot of these skills on their own so they don't completely rely on the medication. You know, but sometimes if you don't start with the medication, it will be very, very hard for them to get any skills, you know. So do I want parents to rely solely on the medication and not teach their kids anything? Of course not. But sometimes if you don't have that option, I mean, if you do have it as an option and you don't go that route, it will just make everybody else's life overly complicated and unnecessarily so. Yeah. All right. So before we go to Akosia Mame, I think Teddy, you had something to contribute to Wendy's stuff. So let's talk briefly on that, and then I'll go to Akosia Mame.
Hi guys. I'm Teddy. Sorry, I have to rush off, so just a little bit. Wendy, the little knowledge I know about children with autism, sometimes parents also have to come together and speak to all the children, let them understand that one of their siblings needs extra care, create a safe environment for Akolano. On say in Kuala, they always want to try something new, and sometimes we Africans inti also mo fi inti eka akola no the what special needs eka akola ne he or she will be scared to do anything that will upset you, so let's try and speak like come together as a family, sit them down, tell them, say, okay, munyano, or special needs, or hiamwa, and yes, say, be your baby and me favor no. But I have to explain certain things to him or her, say, adeɛ wei ɛnyɛ ne sei, ɛnyɛ ne sei. Nti mu sɛ meyɛ bibi sei a, mama nka sɛ me favor na na say me bɔ m'ani ego. So that's all I have to say. Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Teddy. Bye bye. And thank you, Abu, for the gift.
Say no, ọmụ ma de ne kọ special school. Enti no, nkraa ne busaa me sɛ, mommy, ade nti na ɔno na ɛtɔ so mmiɛnsa. Ade nti na ɔno nko adeɛ ɔkɔ school. Ɛna me sɛ an. Ɔno no one, ontumi nkasa. Ɛna two, ohia more attention. Enti na yɛde ne kɔ school wei no. Enti no, sese no, nea yɛbɛyɛ ne sɛ, ɛyɛ sɛ ɔmo nyinaa ɛboa no. Enti ɔmo no ate aseɛ, but ɔmo no nim you can say ɔmo nim ade kora a yɛfrɛ no autism no ɛna ɔmo nso susa panyin no wɔ 8 years ɔkɔ 9 years enti wokyerɛ ne mu kora na still no ɔnte aseɛ but ne onim ne sɛ ne nua bɛrima no ehia mmoa enti sesei no ɔmo hu different sɛ first no na ɔnkasa kora ɔbɛkɔ toilet a ɔbɛsɔ wo nsa sɛ ne sei but sesei no otumi ka ɔbɛka kyerɛ sɛ ɔbɛkɔ toilet ope drink obeba be catch us ope juice ope nsi obeba be catch us ope water ope bibi ope bia no obeba be catch ro but ontimi nka no say bia mommy I want water no oba we twa so water and answer drink enti say no omo hu say omo nua no ensisaye abemu so even ketwa no wo 4 years omo boboso ketwa no wo 4 years ketwa no timi ba be catch him say sometimes mo fanche maya no dey sele no 4 years na ya no dey say no say be man no or to bibi to for ma or ba or pick it up no can pick up entina aya no dey say no and I'm saying mo onye sa because say onua no osua entina say o kana say otia on kan kire ni say da bi mi enka ni sa on kire no correct one no enti omo no omo nim but omo nim at the club potting say when you say because omo susa ni nti no
exactly because
person me de betu omo trim nti no ta emle ne kɔ nanim no na yenya abotre ne akyerɛkyerɛ mu bɛsɛ sɛ no mahu sɛ first no na yenua no won kasa kora bɛsɛ sɛ no wa starting nkakra o kasa enti omo nim bet omo no into deep.
Yeah, and I mean for their ages they don't have to. All you need from them is for them to not feel like oh favor akrabako. So you've done like what you've done is great. Explain to them that I'm not favoring him. I'm not giving him special treatment because of anything. It's because he needs it, and I need your help small with that. Help him when you can. And for their age, that's all they need to know. And I'm glad that you've been able to do that with him. But like I was saying earlier, ultimately, a lot of the work in raising a child with special needs, it's in patience. I promise you. A lot of it is in patience and taking your child, like that particular child's journey as their own. Like no comparing him to other kids, no comparing him to your own kids, as much as possible, not worrying too much. Of course, you're doing the work to help them speak, you're doing the work to help them maybe do better in school, but you don't have to worry too much about, hey, when they 5, I feel no static as how will he pick up writing? How will he pick up, with his own new JSS now, 20? Like, don't think too much into it. Take him one day at a time. Take that child one day at a time. Because if not, you will frustrate yourself way too much, and I know it's hard, but hopefully you will get there. Okay. All right. Akosia Mame. Akosia Mame, are you there?
School, probably a private school now, Okono. They've done a great job, and you're seeing if they can look into getting you an oral sensory thing that your child can chew on, so they don't use the paper. What's that? You said na a yeah, what chew toys it be it be adding like a plastic kind of like it's safe plastic that they can chew on. So it gives them the sensory seeking whatever they are seeking for no, instead of the paper. And then there are some so yeah, because bad boy and say now we bought this harder ones to be, but still not already entirely. We did not even know say chew toys. No. There were some that were made of cloth. In school, Nemai who says Sana, there was some made of cloth. And they bought that for him in school. It helped a lot. In school, no on rain and tire, but was starting because that's a kind of what he was seeking for. Let's maybe somewhere if we can try some of those so that like paper, so better in Kaka.
Thank you very much. Right, so we'll take Akosia Mame, and I know Len Ketia was on there before drop, so we'll take Akosia Mame with Len Ketia in between Betty Boys and Obapa. I don't remember who came first, but we'll come to you. Hello, Akosia Mame. Good evening. How are you? Yes.
And other things. So we had him checked, and then, thankfully, he was cleared of all nzamanzama na yare. So the school advised that we do speech therapy. In fact, where my children attend school, they have a SEN center and all that. So, and then the proprietor of the school, I think she has the special needs education background. So when she identifies anything strange with a child, she invites the parents for a meeting, and then she will advise that you go see a specialist, and then once they say the child has problem A or B, then they take it up from there. So we did all that, and then we realized he didn't have ADHD, he didn't have autism, but then the speech was just delayed. And then at the time he wasn't writing too. I think he was then 3 years. So the therapist for the school came in, he assessed him, and then we were asked to do 3 to 6 months speech therapy and then occupational therapy, which we did. And according to the therapist, when he examined him, he said the speech is delayed, but then looking at him, he's very smart, and then within a space of 3 months, he should be able to, speak and all that. And true to his words, within 2 months, my boy had started talking and all that. Unlike when he will drag you to the kitchen, point at something that he wanted and all that. Now he was talking. And what I have realized now is he's not able to hold conversations. And then sometimes when he holds conversation, you realize he's not making sense. Excuse me to say.
How old is he?
He's 6 and he'll be 7 in February.
Okay.
Yes, sometimes in some people there are times too you don't even know what he's trying to say. A typical example is 2 weeks ago and they had Christmas cantata in school, and then he was part of the play and all that. The school forgot to send me a mail that he should bring a costume and all that. And he also didn't tell me about it. In the morning of the program, all that he told me, Mommy, my costume. And I thought it was one of his in some no ya okekano. So I was like, which costume? But he wasn't able to tell me I am playing a role and blah blah blah. So it was when I dropped him off in school and then came back, they realized he didn't have his costume. And it was too late for them to call me to end. So they didn't allow him play his role, and he became so emotional that day.
Yeah. Now,
Uh-huh.
it's unfortunate that he had to experience that. But bringing it back to
Exactly.
kind of his own developmental trajectory, that's one of the reasons why I always tell folks again, if your child is struggling, talk to the pediatrician, right? So for a child whose speech was delayed, I think it's par for the course that his speech in relation to other people will slightly be delayed as well, right? So you're looking at him as a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, he should be able to have conversations at ABCC, so that doesn't lead to things. But he didn't start speaking really until he was like 3, 4, while other kids
Exactly.
started at 2, right?
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
have to give him like a year or two grace period. Of
Oh,
course,
okay.
continue to
Okay.
practice, yes, but
Okay.
given his history, you have to give him some grace period while you continue to work with him on his speech and
Okay.
his
Okay.
syntax and stuff like that. But
Okay.
you have to give him some grace period given his history. Yeah.
Okay. And he didn't have ADHD, right? But my boy will not sit down.
Yeah.
He will not sit. He's all over the place. He's all over the place. The only thing that can get him glued to his seat is football. He loves soccer.
Nice.
So he's always watching football. He loves racing, car racing. So he's always watching car racing. He knows the names of all the top football stars at his age and their teams.
Nice.
The only thing that gets him glued to his seat for an hour or even 30 minutes is football. He loves tennis. He loves to play tennis. He loves to swim. You take him out to swim, and then when it's time to come home, it becomes a problem.
So
He will cry. He wants to swim more. But he will not sit down at
yeah.
home until he's watching soccer or until he is on his tablet
Yeah.
watching car racing and all those things. He will not sit down.
Yeah. Now, quickly,
And
the thing about when a child is assessed, especially around 3 or 4, is sometimes we don't catch everything, right? Because with
okay,
ADHD or autism, um, sometimes so what you assess what you see and what you don't see for their age, right? So when it comes to ADHD, for example, there's a certain level of a 5-year-old's inattention or hyperactivity that is normal for a 5-year-old. So if you assess him at 5, they would say he doesn't meet criteria for ADHD. Now, if that same level of hyperactivity is present at 8, it's a slightly different conversation. So it's not as if because they assessed him a year ago and they said he doesn't have ADHD, if 6 months from now you're still seeing this hyperactivity and he's doing the same thing at school, it's something consistent. He does it everywhere, even when it has nothing to do with his speech. He's still hyperactive and he struggles with attention and stuff like that. Nothing stops you from talking to his pediatrician to say, hey,
exactly.
difficulties that we're seeing is ADHD likely, right? So it's not a case of because they said once when he was 3 that he doesn't have ADHD that he can never have ADHD, right? So
Okay, so you advise I go for reassessment.
not right now necessarily. What I'm saying is,
Okay.
yeah, if you continue to see those behaviors down the line, especially at home
Okay.
and at school, then yeah, start by talking to his pediatrician. Say, hey, we are seeing these things. What do you think? And if they think
Okay.
a comprehensive assessment will be necessary, then you take that route. But I want you to understand that the fact that he wasn't diagnosed a year ago does not mean he would never meet criteria for ADHD, right?
Because at age 7, at age 6, he's able to read and all that, but his understanding of some of the things he reads, especially his storybooks and all that, he reads all right, and then when you tell him to narrate the story to you, that is where you get to see that no, he can read it, but then understanding what he read is a problem. I don't know if it's because he cannot hold a conversation.
Yeah. No, I mean, so sometimes when a kid can't pay attention, it affects his comprehension. Because so as someone, if he didn't even understand,
Yes, yeah, good.
he can't answer questions based on it, right? You know.
Okay.
So yeah, so you can. I mean, the reason why I think to first talk to the pediatrician is because sometimes testing costs a lot of money, right? So I always recommend you first talk to the pediatrician so that if you're actually going to get tested, it's sort of worth it, because
Yeah.
if you talk to a pediatrician and it's more along the lines of, it's still kind of tricky, closer to his developmental age and everything, so let's give it some time. Then you wait until it's going to be worth, like you have more information for the testing to be worth it, you know.
Okay.
But yeah, but if that's not an issue necessarily, then by all means, there is no downside to getting him reassessed. Absolutely.
Because it gives me sleepless nights. Seriously, and
So
it's
now,
it's it's number one on my to-do list for 2025 to have him see the specialist again. They reassess him and all that, so I can clear my mind of.
so now we are back to what I was telling Wendy. As parents, and I don't know. I guess I don't know. Whenever I say this, some people give me the impression that it's because you're a man, blah blah blah. But I don't think it's that, to be honest. But as parents, sometimes we worry too much. We take too many steps forward. We have to try to take it as much as possible, one day at a time. Like my kids can be a lot, right? So when you see me frustrated and all of that, it's because of what you're doing today and maybe what I'm worried about for tomorrow. I try to not worry about whether he can live on his own as an adult. Like he's 6 and he's not talking yet. Can he even date? When he's a teenager, will people make fun of him? It's not healthy. Like I can't go there, right? So I try to take it one day at a time so I can be more present as much as possible to deal with him today. So of course, I mean, in your case, even you're looking at least you're looking just about a year ahead, but as much as possible, let it not be a sleepless night sort of thing as much as it is a planning sort of thing. I haven't reassessed, but when he has a parent like you, he has a chance he's going to be okay. Okay.
And another thing too, initially he wasn't the social type, but now he's become too friendly. I mean, we'll be walking on the street. Sometimes I take them out, like we walk within the neighborhood just to get them familiarized, with the neighborhood and all that. And he will see a random person, he will just run to the person, go and hug the person. And I get worried, I get scared. I'm like, this boy, someone can easily take him away one day. The way, I mean, he's become too friendly and all that. How can you run to somebody you don't know from anywhere?
Yeah. No, I mean,
Meanwhile,
the more you speak about him, the more I'm convinced at some point that retesting will be helpful, right?
yeah.
Because again, kids with ADHD tend to be more impulsive, right? So a piece of that could do with like when he gets the impulse, oh, somebody go hug, right? And also kids with autism don't have an accurate sense of danger and that social and boundaries stuff, so there's that as well. But typically, autism is better spotted when you're younger, right? So typically, if they test your 5-year-old, 3-year-old or so, and they don't see autism, you're usually okay when it comes to autism. ADHD, though, slightly different conversation. But again, if you have access to the resources, please, you know, check with the pediatrician. That's for sure for a start. And many of the strategies or the things that you can do to help him improve, that one actually probably doesn't even depend on whether he's been diagnosed. Like you're seeing the behavior, you want to do something about it. You can talk to the pediatrician. They can give you some tips. If you have your own, like a therapist or even a somebody who's a family therapist or something like that, they can give you some strategies that can help as well. But yes, obvious, absolutely keep, you know, reading around it, finding ways to help him, but I encourage you for it to be more of an academic exercise more than a night, like a sleepless night sort of exercise. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Akoselami.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. God bless you.
You're welcome. Now, Betty Boyce, are you there? And after Betty Boyce, we'll go to Obapa Josie Sen. Betty Boyce. No? Okay. Obapa. Obapa, are you there? Betty Boyce or Obapa? All right. Anyone? Oh, there you go. Obaba, hi, how are you? Good evening. Good evening. I just say, how are you?
Oh, me ho yɛ na wo nso ɛ. Bakyɛ na wo nso ɛ.
Miss me who pa meet
Yɛde Awurade ase afihyiapa nso.
you.
Afihyiapa. Anwummerɛ deɛ di kan mɛka sɛ meda ase bebree because ever since is earlier latter part of this year na mehyɛ ase follow a mehu the problem of my 10-year-old daughter sɛ ɔwɔ ADHD. Not the symptoms no, because in fact na metaa bo no because na obiara sɛ ɔkɔ obiara ho a she acts so weird and people were complaining and nti akyire no a me follow wo no a upon your teachings and other stuff na mo sɛ my daughter have a problem so medi w'akyi ma mehu sɛ sei na problem no nie but ɛfiri sɛ mehuuɛ no a medi wo nkyerɛkyerɛ akyi no a me ne no mmienu maka me down a me ne no mmienu ɛna mehu sɛ mehu sɛ she's so fabulous. If you say me start to follow now me treating it right. Or yeah, I don't hear that hey me tia me no, but I put her in her place. But because maybe now try say we should send her the name mama no when I am fa me name na me kabom bebrebe na de ama no. So she will be confused but actually now I'm follow now him say say o say me the man kakran no. Oh she has become so I mean, thank you so much. God richly bless you because I'm be bono me say oh no ho ma na the papa nso timi bon opie baby complaints. I mean, I was but thank you so much. Nti there be who say yeah mommy me doctor no. I say yeah, your doctor.
That's honestly that's what I live for. Goal now, no, that's the main goal to be able to help, especially the kids, because they don't have the language to speak for themselves. And I'm glad to hear it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. But the problem sisi owo na adesua. In fact, adesua no de ɛwɔ from. But one wonderful thing about her is say she's so skillful. Say base between makeups, but I don't know where she learned it. She's so good in say woman in makeup. Nneɛma sɛ ɔnyɛ tools ne sɛ ɔnyɛ a ɔbɛtumi ayɛ and everybody is always amazed at how a ɔyɛ saa nneɛma no and so also team so style ama nso how she would do it. So I started looking at the other side of her life and I have now appreciated that side more than focusing on the say additional fine me mani dear. I'm trying my best as a mother, but I am also focusing more on into weekends in the drum. My friend be here, it's me, I'm so blessing kɔ hɔ kɔsua nti ɔbɛba wo fine sɛ deɛ ɔbaa bɔnsɛ na ɔde nail no tools no ɛyɛ wo nan ne ho yie nti wow so I mean you have helped me a lot. She's outside playing right now. I think it's Uncle Be who is a minute now.
Yeah. No,
My doctor.
I'm really excited to hear it. Yeah, one of the things that I think it's in one of my other videos. If you see something that they like, not you can use that as a way to teach them, right? So, for example, if her spelling is not great, and she likes makeup, the words for her to learn to spell would be things like brush, makeup, make, file. I think if you figure out how to spell some of those words, the knowledge is transferable to other aspects that are not necessarily makeup based. But that's what will help the education be fun. So if it's math and you want to see if you're doing word problems, and the word problem, the school will say if Kofi has 5 balls and you take 2 away, how many balls does Kofi have left? In her case, it would be if you have 4 makeup brushes and your other hairdresser borrows 3, how many makeup brushes do you have left? Then she can literally gather her makeup brushes and do the math. But it's it's a fun way that she can actually do it, and it would help improve even the actual academics as well. But altogether, hey, thank you very much for sharing this with us. That's
And see, I'm not like my friend being so with the same problem like the main friend, but I'm not the any very strong. She's having 3 kids. All of them are autism. All of the 3 children are autism, but she doesn't have any knowledge about what is going on. And I have been teaching her, and she doesn't have. She also doesn't have access to the internet as well. So
not.
the little that I learn from you every day, I try to tell her. I try to educate her, and it's so. But she'll get through with the teaching. Sometimes I will record some of your this thing, show it to her, and she'll be like, "Hey, Josephine, I also say, oh, Miss, I also say, I will follow." I say, "Okay, Martin." So I mean,
Nipa ko na
yeah, we are trying our best.
WhatsApp.
If I shall say,
Our WhatsApp.
Debbie,
Oh, okay.
recently the phone say about also obey within by the end of the Christmas obey. Nti me bɔ mpaeɛ sɛ ɔyɛ a na kyɛ sɛ so WhatsApp nso ananka join
The reason
nti
I ask that is there's one creator on here, Mami Adra. Mami Adra works a lot with moms with autism, and she has a TikTok page, but she also has a WhatsApp group that they share tips and stuff like that outside of TikTok. And see, when the time is right, let me know. I'll connect them.
okay.
With me more
I
directly.
think she will be very happy. She will be very happy. She'll be so happy
So when, yeah,
about what is
when she
going.
has the phone that she can do that, feel free to reach out, and I'll connect.
Okay, okay, doctor.
Yeah,
So thank you very much.
of course, my
Stay blessed,
pleasure.
and
Thank
God richly bless you. Blessing. Say hi to doctor.
Hi,
Hi.
blessing. How are you?
I'm fine.
Nice. Nice.
Thank you.
All right.
And you?
I'm also
Okay,
fine.
so doctor, stay
I'm
blessed.
also fine. Thank you very much, Obapa. So
Say,
I'm aware of the time here. We have about 7 minutes to go. So Betty Boys, if you're ready, you can speak. Otherwise, I'll go to Eva, Ifia, Bonnie, and then unfortunately, that would probably be it. We round up for today, and we'll set up the time for the next session, and we'll talk about that, right? Eva, hi. How are you? I'm good, thank you.
Issue is I have 2.5-year-old daughter. Um we were in Ghana, but we traveled, and I mean she hadn't started school, and she was just with us, myself and my husband. So I mean it's delayed her speech sort of. So we decided to enroll her in daycare. So I we've kind of seen an improvement in her speech. I mean, sometimes she can say some things that I go like, where did you learn this words from? And before she enrolled in school, I think I was giving her too much screen time.
Mhm.
Yes, and I've been reading and listening to people, and I know they say we should limit their screen time, which I really adhered to. So I've seen some kind of, I mean, changes in her speech. It's not there yet, but I know she's getting there. I mean, now she can communicate. If she wants to eat, if she wants to pee and all that, she can tell me, "Mommy, I want to eat. Mommy, this, mommy, that." But I mean, comparing that to some of the kids I know that, I mean, it's not good to compare, but I'm just making a
Yeah.
scenario. Yeah, like kids her age. I mean, some can maybe more penny simple. Like if you hear them speak, you go like, "Hey, why is my daughter not speaking like that?" But I mean,
I know where I was at fault, giving a lot of screen time, because where we moved to, I mean, where we were now settling in and all that, so we really didn't know much about the school process and all that. But now she's in school. She's doing fine, and at a point I mean, I didn't want to even send my mind there, but I was thinking a lot of things. Why is her speech delayed and all that? But I mean, it's not there yet, but she's doing so well
And
now.
that's all you can do, right? Keep giving her the support based on her needs, and when they are this young, your best friend is their pediatrician. you know
Yeah.
I'm sure you already do, but attend all of her appointments and ask all the questions you have. I think sometimes, especially for folks in our community, we either ignore certain things, or we feel, whether we feel ashamed, or we don't want to, or we forget to bring it to the pediatrician or the doctor's office. So if
Okay.
there's anything you have questions about, bring it to the doctor's office for the doctor to say, based on the child's history, this is expected, this is what we was expected to see. And if something is delayed, then they can tell you, okay, let's get a referral to this person to do this testing. So yeah, make their doctor your best friend. Hi, Alice, and talk to them, and that will help you stay on top of your child's developmental milestones. But again, I've said this several times. As much as possible, try to take your child one day at a time. If you think too far ahead, sometimes you worry yourself for nothing, because you realize that by the time they're 5, maybe they are all caught up, your speech, no concerns there, and stuff like that, right? So yeah, try to take it one day at a time. Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. I
Absolutely.
followed you, so I'll be going to your page and to learn more things. Thank you.
Great. All right. Well, so to everybody that joined us more recently, we do this ADHD live the last Saturday of every month. Black Pearl, our gracious co-host, is the one that brought the idea and pushed for it. So I do it the last Saturday of every month. So we'll do the same thing in January. This is the one that I dedicate to ADHD/parenting. But I also do a general live with my friends Alice and Dr. Tanisha every Friday at 5 p.m. our time, which is 9 p.m. Ghana time. And that one we talk about mental health generally. So we cover different topics. So if you want to hang out with me weekly, that's the one for you. If it's more about ADHD and parenting, we do it once a month. So we'll do the last Saturday of January as well. Every now and then I feel like it and I have the time, and I will jump on to take on, questions generally. So if you don't follow me, please do. If this was a conversation you found helpful, please do. There are many, many videos on my page that you probably find helpful if you found this helpful. Lenkete is asking if I'm in Ghana. I am not. I am based in the US. And that's one of the difficult things, because many people ask me for resources in Ghana, and I usually don't have it. But many times I can guide you to maybe at least somebody else that may be able to answer the question for you. But I definitely have videos and content that I'm sure you would find helpful. So if you don't follow me, please do. And I'd have Enima and Dansua have some final words, and we'll call it a day, and we'll see you all back here. Those of you that can join us next month. Yeah. Black Pearl, Enima, are you there? Yes. Closing remarks.
You for this. It actually helps us. And we are grateful to you and Danswa for all of this, the experience, everything. So we hope to meet in next month, 25th, which is the last Saturday of the month, to enjoy some like these stuffs as well. So we are grateful, and then yeah, let's all meet next month and continue enjoying sessions like this.
I will
Thank you.
I will, if I remember, and it looks like Anima would remind me. I will download this one and post it to my YouTube account. So for those of you who are late, you can watch the earlier parts of it. Yeah, Anima. I wasn't going to do this. Anima is the one that pushed it. So also for anybody who has found this helpful, you have Anima to thank for it. I think this is the third one already, and my plan is to keep it going through 2025 as well. That's why. Any final remarks before we go? That if your kids will let you.
People who are here, and I'm guessing everybody who's here has a child with some kind of special need concerns, and that's why we're here. And trust me when I say that we understand that it's not easy. We live the life. So we do understand that it's not easy, but we're in this together. Okay, so it's gonna be fine. And I think Jonathan had a question for you. I'm not sure if you've seen it or you will inbox him or
What
something.
was the question?
His question was, he says, can some children who know about their ADHD so just take advantage of it to misbehave? and and how would you know if they're just misbehaving or
Right. So, I mean, can some children? Yeah. How often does it happen? I have never had an experience like that. Right. Worst case scenario, they don't do anything differently. And then they'll tell you, depending on the age, they will say, "Oh, Dad, you already know I have ADHD." Right. So they don't get worse because now they know they have ADHD. Some kids, very few times, they may not necessarily try as hard because they know they have ADHD. But it's almost it hardly happens where a child almost retrogresses because he knows he has ADHD. So yeah, it doesn't happen often. There is more advantage in them knowing that their brain works differently and learning how to work with their brain. So I'm guessing Jonathan is asking that because he's wondering if he should tell his kids about their ADHD, and I think it's probably an appropriate thing to do, to let your kids know their diagnosis and how it affects them in day-to-day life. Lenketia was asking, well, one, that I'm not based in Ghana, and if there's a way I can help them get connected to a provider in Ghana. Folks wrote a few down here. If you're looking for assessments, like I said, I was told Ridge and 37 have decent assessment programs. My YouTube link, yes, it's in my bio. But I do it's also the same handle that I use. So if you go on YouTube and type your neighborhood psych, I think I should come up. Or even no, Dr. Luis psychologist, I will come up. I am also starting one that is psychology in Fanti. So if you speak Fanti, there is that page as well to keep an eye on. But yeah, those are the things to talk about. Please, again, if you don't follow me, follow me. If you send me an inbox, it takes me a while to get through them, but eventually I will get to you. So if you're going to send me an inbox, please write every concern that you have in that one, so that when I get to it, I can get you an answer. Because if you write hi and I come back 3 days to say hello, and then you take another time to come, about what? Yeah. And also, if you reach out to me in the inbox, I'll give you my WhatsApp business number, because I actually like that better when people send me a voice note with all of their concerns and their questions, so I don't have to read too much, and then I will respond with a voice note as well. I think it's the easiest way to communicate with folks too. So, yeah, please reach out. And once again, thank you all for joining me and hanging out with me. We will be back here next month for the ADHD bits, and I'll keep posting videos, and I'll try to answer questions that folks have. So I will see you somewhere on the page and in my comment section. Thank you, everyone. Merry Christmas once again, and Happy New Year.